All right, welcome to our usual Thursday. We're going to continue this week on the old Stylized Valley here. So I'm just going to hop straight to that. Hopefully everybody's doing well. How are you? How's the class going? Life in general? Life's good. Yeah, I can't complain. Well, I could. But no, I think it's going pretty well. Getting these streams going on, so it's good to break up the week with that. Otherwise, yeah, I can't complain too much. My lens seems a little dark here. Let's add some light in there. All right. Yeah, life's going well. Despite the whole COVID shenanigans, things popping off in different parts of the world. Managing, for sure. One of the things I had mentioned in our Slack channel that I just wanted to tell any of you that are with me on Mondays for the life drawing is Raf Grassetti, who's I think he's probably, I don't actually know his title, but he's a lead modeler, I think, at Sony, Santa Monica. And he's modeled up a écorché sculpture that's free. Oh, yeah. Hey, welcome, Blake. He's got an écorché sculpture model that's free on his Gumroad store. So I go check Raf Grassetti out in his store, and you can download that STL file. If you have anybody you know that can 3D print anything, you can print out an écorché, sort of like the 3D total écorchés. So that's good if you're into having a model for free. I mean, you have to obviously pay for the plastic and whatnot, the PVC or whatever it is, to print it, but still very good if you want to save some cash on that stuff. This is like the lighting showed me with designing the stage illustrations. Yep, similar. So we are looking at the visual target where I've just roughed in some stuff in here. This is sort of where I've left it this week, but I always keep that visual target folder open when I'm, depending on the piece, I'll work on it a little bit. And so I just wanted to kind of visualize now some warmer light coming into the scene because everything's very cool. I've set this thing up to be very cool because I know a lot of my shadows, I want them to be cool. I don't want them to be overly warm, right? So I set the file up for that. But sometimes it's really hard to see that as you're building a piece. So it's always good to sometimes spend a quick pass for me, opening that visual target folder, have a hue saturation where we're bumping the saturation a little bit. We can have some control over that. I have a dodge layer where I'm warming things up a little bit. I have a multiply layer for some more shadow, and then something that is kind of creating a dark but cool darkness with that shaft of light coming through. So, I mean, these could also ultimately be the final channels that we use at the end to tweak everything, but I'm not spending a ton of time with that yet, as I don't want to put the horse before the cart, so to speak, with some of this stuff. So that's what we're working with today. So we're going to come in here and kind of play around with a little bit more building some of the texture and the grass planes up top. We can see that I used a brush in the on the cliff face that had this kind of rake pattern pulled through it, and I like that because it sends sort of these linear strokes down through the cliff face, so I can kind of indicate a contour to the cliff face in there. So yeah, I mean, it's getting there anyway, is what I could say. I still potentially want to add a bit more of the warm deciduous trees in the maybe into the background or the middle ground, background, and the foreground. We'll see. I'll see how it goes. And then we can get into kind of wrapping up some things with the trees. I want to get a little chalet down in here, and then I want to kind of dot some of this space with trees that have maybe kind of broken out of the tree line, just so it's not super rigid. We get a little bit of a stroke of realism in there without the shapes kind of staying completely, I guess, Ivan Earle-esque, right? Where the shapes in a lot of his artwork are very, very distinct, very stylized, very graphic. That's the great thing about stylization, right? It's up to you and how much of it you want, what you set up. You set up your own rules for how it should look, right? If you're emulating somebody, then of course stick to their rules or what you can deem as their rules. Yeah. Stage illustration because of the castle, the trapdoor. The castle with the trapdoor. I remember that one. Yep, for sure. Looking great. Hope things are going well. Yeah, going well. Going well. Thank you. Thank you for the well wishes. Always good to hear from previous students. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. I mean, we saw what I was doing last week with adding some of the texture with our trees. We got our tree brush in here. And you can see that I've come in and hit some texture or texturized those slopes, those masses with the tree texture itself. So for a lot of that, you know, I'm going to go and find that mass, right, in the layer stack. That's this thing in here. And so I just locked the pixels on that. I went and grabbed a tree brush, whatever I wanted. And I just came in here and just color selected to start painting in there. So so it kind of looks like that. If I'll use a different color so you can kind of see what I was doing in there. So I was just laying in some of the darker trees. I would turn the pixel or the alpha lock off just to be able to paint the trees outside of that shape. But I was really following the edge of those basic forms. We can still see the basic forms in the background. So, you know, to unlock that stuff, I mean, we can dive right into those guys. There, let's back up a little bit. Let's go get the lazy trees. And so, you know, that would be something I alpha lock right away. I can pick that value, pick something slightly darker in there, and then I can kind of come in there and start doing the very same thing that I was doing in these other spots, laying in those trees. I want to be careful that the trees are small enough that they look like they're from that kind of background, middle ground background area. Even further back, I'm going to make them smaller. It's going to become probably more of a noise at that point. Good question there. Chris is saying, playing with the brushes made a sweet palm tree brush. Awesome, yeah. And you'll see, Chris, that will, you'll have use for it. You'll be able to play with sort of how the tip shape works, and you can kind of mess around with that. Maybe you want to make a couple of those brushes so you can mix and match them to really make a group of trees look dynamic and not too much like a pattern. In terms of the question, what a concept artist does and how is it different from illustration? An illustrator will tend to make, at the highest level, an illustrator makes a finished piece of artwork that sees the light of day, so to speak. So an illustrator will make art for a poster or a book cover or an editorial magazine illustration where the art is the product at that point, right? It will tell stories. There'll be character design involved. There'll be some narrative involved typically. In editorial illustration, sometimes it's a bit esoteric and more kind of interpretive, right? You'll see this in, like, if there's a story about how, say, you know, population is hooked on barbiturates. There'll be somebody swimming in a sea of pills or something like that. So it'll kind of be a little bit interpretive that way. Whereas concept art is usually a service that a commercial artist supplies to design things, to visualize things that other people are going to take and make something out of, right? So that's typically environments, characters, creatures, props, right? Everything that would fill up a world. And that person is in charge of interpreting some of the goals of their clients and visualizing them for them. And typically with concept art, you'll see that in art books, there'll be concept art of The Last of Us or God of War or something like this. That's when that artwork sees the light of day, or sometimes in video games, you can unlock it or you can see it in the extras in films, but it's not meant for public consumption. Usually it's for other people to know what things should look like so they can build it. Right. There's a lot of troubleshooting that goes on in there for art directors, clients of all sorts, but anybody that has a stake in wanting it to come across a certain way, wanting the product to come across a certain way. So yeah, that's the biggest difference. Can a concept artist be an illustrator or do create illustrations? Absolutely. A lot of the time, concept artists will produce certain things for a project where they are helping a client produce marketing material, right? So for websites or banners for ads and in browsers and whatnot. So we can absolutely do that kind of thing, but the end goals tend to be a little bit different in that regard. So that's how I would characterize it in a broad way. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah. Cool. So let's keep at it here. Let's just kind of get some of those trees going on. With this, you can be artful about the shapes, the interior shapes that we're making with these trees as well, right? If I go too far with the darker trees, I can switch to the lighter value and kind of move up in through there and start kind of breaking that up as a texture, right? Which can look pretty cool. Well, I think it looks pretty cool anyway. So yeah, I'm just trying to make the kind of tree line feel like it has some depth. Let's get some of this up in there. Hey there, welcome. That's feeling pretty good. Some of these shapes are a little bit ridiculous, but I mean, with stylization, there's a lot of this stuff's forgivable if it's a little bit fantastic, let's say, because that's stylization is that sort of exaggeration of things, right? So let's just forgive ourselves for that. Okay, so it could be like at a certain point, I do want to add some of these tree tops sticking up off the shape. At a certain point as well, I don't want to add that because it's going to be such a minute detail as it moves further back that we can just make it feel like it's too small to actually see, right? So what am I gonna? I'm gonna probably add a little bit of that texture to break that form on the middle ground, the lazy trees here. But the trees in the background, I'm just going to work with the basic small tree brush and not break that form at all. How am I doing? Good. I'm getting that a lot today. Thank you guys, guys and gals, for asking. It's going well. Can't complain. It's finally sunny where I'm at. Well, it's not today, but it's been getting better. So definitely improves the mood. So let's find the lazy trees here again, turn them on and off so you can see what we're dealing with. I'm going to turn that alpha lock off now. So now I can kind of draw on that whole layer, right? So I got to be careful and target the tree look that I want. You know, sometimes I can just use the brush and move it in one direction to kind of create the shapes that I want to create in there. Looking for strategic spots to create those trees. That was a little bit too much. Let's get some of those guys breaking up there. That feels pretty good. And then let's let's go find this back here just so we can get that texture in. I am going to alpha log, so this is going to be the one where I'm not going to break the form out of the top, the treetops. Slightly darker. Contrast as we go back is going to get harder to read because there's less contrast in total. I want there to be a break though in between those distant tree stands and our middle ground. So that's what I've got in there is maybe a hint to dark because it's just starting to blend in with that next layer. So I'm going to go pick this again and just bump it down a little bit. It might be that it's barely noticeable. I've got to kind of contend with that a little bit more. See if we can just start to see it. That works for me. That's enough. Just that hint of contrast. Too bad I don't want some of my tree line to feel too parallel or that I'm creating those interior shapes and they become too parallel with a lot of this other stuff. You know, that texture's feeling all right and the individual sort of tree elements on the inside of that are interesting enough for now. We have these layers separated. This song is just way too much for me right now. Sorry, I gotta switch that. There we go. I don't want some softcore drum and bass going off in my ear. This is definitely not the music I listen to, by the way. This is just safe for Twitch. We do what we can. But that's a little bit better. So we've kind of laid in that stuff and it's feeling pretty good. So we can see some of the artwork in the back when we get close. Some of the edges aren't lined up. I can fairly easily go back in there and tweak that stuff. So I'm not too worried about that. So not something to get caught up on. Lighthearted. I always thought of you as gravitating towards darker concepts for some reason. I do. I definitely do. Again, there's only so much you can do on Twitch. So, but it's always good to kind of practice things that are out of your comfort zone. So, think about taking both concept art and illustration class at CG Spectrum to add that to your filmmaking skills. Yeah, I mean, if you want to hone your skills for sure, it's a good way of looking at design and thinking about form and function and a lot of other things that we offer. So definitely, if you're interested, you can contact the Elena at the school, and she can help you out with any of that stuff. Introduction concept pretty much sorted me out for the industry. There you go. There's the testimonial right there. Classic rock. I'm into classic rock. I'm into metal. I'm into rap, hip hop, old school hip hop, classic music, classical music. Really all over the place. I'm not a huge country music fan, but I would say that's one of the few areas that I don't. Singer songwriter. I mean, if it's really good, sure. Folk rock, not really into, but everything else is fair game for me. I get bored pretty easy, so I like to switch things up. So a lot of different things in there. Okay, so I want to fix this front cliff face in here, this guy. These trees on the edge are annoying me, so I'm going to go in and just use that tree brush and And paint that back in. Let's see if we can get, isolate that form. Painting on top of that. Ah, there we go. This lighter layer of trees in here. I'm going to save that sort of lighting for the end where we see some of that warm light coming in. I was kind of just roughing it out here. I'm just going to delete that layer now. I don't need it anymore. I don't know what that's doing. Clip top lock pixels. Let's see if that works. Yeah, okay, there we go. So maybe this shape maybe needs some loving in terms of how those trees are coming across in here. So I might kind of take another stab at the way the dark tree stands are coming in. See, I'm just trying to pull some interesting kind of undulations of those treetops through that space. We could have some fun with some curves in there almost. Do you remember my space raccoon? I do remember the space raccoon. Yes, indeed. Very fun. I remember the dragon too. I'm on a $4,000 budget. Can you tell me what's some good art display tablets out there? Well, I would say if it's just purely for the tablet itself, my experience with tablets has been with the Intuos and the Cintiq. The Cintiq I love personally because I'm drawing right on the screen, right? So I'm not kind of trying to connect the dots from drawing down on the surface, looking up at the actual stylus or the point and trying to connect the dots there. That said, I've worked with a lot of people that prefer that over the Cintiq. So it's sort of a preference thing. If you really feel like you'd be more inclined to be drawing and you're more used to drawing, seeing your pencil tip make those shapes and associating that hand-eye coordination, then I'd probably go for a tablet like that. That said, I mean, there's a lot of competitors now. The Huion, I think that's what it's called, is a tablet out there. There's even more that I haven't. I don't really kind of pay too much attention to the tech game because I have my tech. So personally, I would say that Cintiq has been my experience, and I haven't had too much issue. The one issue I would say with that is that sometimes Windows ink doesn't play well with the Wacom drivers. So, but I mean, that's always been a problem as long as I've been using Wacom products, and that's been a long time now, really long time, almost 20 years. So I would look in the same thing that I would always do when I buy anything tech related. I always look for a ton of reviews. I try and find reviews where people have had problems and then just to see if that's sort of user error, or it seems like a lot of people are having a very similar problem with any one product or even model of this. I'm using a Cintiq 22 UX, I think it's called. I have in my cupboard a 21. I have a 21 UX, and this is the 22 UHD. I don't even know what it's called, but it's older now. When they put it out, the Lexan on it has this kind of it makes the pixels refract a little bit, and it creates this sizzle as you move your head. I've gotten so used to it now, but when it first came out, I was working with this at a studio, and I hated it, but I got used to it. So I mean, it's those kinds of things you want to look out for is in the reviews of those things, because if you find something that you really think, I don't think I'd like that, then you can avoid that purchase. So that's what I would say there. I got same. Cintiq 13 here. It's overall better. Portable. Yeah, portable's awesome. A friend of mine had the 13, and I borrowed it once on a vacation just to kind of play around with it with my laptop. And it was good. Again, with that one, it was something about the screen, which is very similar to the one I'm working on, which I didn't like. And I'm so used to a larger drawing area that I didn't love it, but it was still a really good piece of kit. I have an iPad Pro, the 12-inch, 12.9 with Procreate. I don't think they make the 12 or 13-inch anymore, but I love that for portability. Drawing, you can do a lot of things that you can do in Photoshop, not everything, of course. For me, colorization in Photoshop's just more fluid because of my experience with it. So I would bring things into Photoshop, I think, to colorize. But I've done work on it. I've worked for clients. I did work for Capcom on a Cintiq, just some of the rough sketching that I sent to client, and that was really useful. I remember you got monitored by one of the guys that did storyboarding at Cartoon Network and did Kiko Sword of Light. Bobby Chu's work, nice. I'm not doing bad with the Intuos. Yeah, the Intuos is just it's so reliable. It's just you can put that thing anywhere and go. You don't have to worry about the screen and batteries as much. I've got a little Bamboo for travel because I have a laptop. So that I can travel with my computer and work abroad as my job is remote. And that's super handy if I just need to do, some drawing. It does take a little bit, though, for me to clue into the different way. Like, so if you're drawing an ellipse, if I draw an ellipse with my hand, I'm used to seeing and feeling that shape. And when I'm doing it on a table that's flat and moving away from me, that's a little bit different, right? And so it takes a bit to look at the screen, feel that that sort of ellipse shape and get it right. So, I mean, I worked with a few artists that just prefer the Intuos over the Cintiq. Like they were actually given Cintiqs and they were like, nah, I'll use this Intuos instead because they prefer that way. Some people don't like their hand in the way, which is nice. That is nice about the drawing because you can kind of just see the strokes and just put them where you need them to be without this thing in the way. Yeah. Curious to try the huge Wacom Cintiq 22-inch. How many inches is that screen? Almost the size of a table. Now, the big one's way bigger than this. The big one, I think, is 30 inches or something like that. It has sort of an arm that can let you rest it down on the table, which is really cool. I have my Cintiq on a Ergotron arm, so it's sort of connected to the end of my desk and I can move it around. The thing that sucks about that, you can't see it, but it bobs up and down because that whole arm is trying to hold that weight. And so there's no way it's going to hold it perfectly still. It would need like a kickstand or something. So I've gotten used to painting like that. It's not a big deal, but I like it for my workflow because I can get it out of my face when I need to and just type because I have to I'm a head of department at the school, so I have a lot of writing to do as well, communication stuff. So, but if you don't do that as much, then hey, you know, I'd probably be working with the larger Cintiq, because for me, the drawing space to get the arm involved is really important. You'll see that I talk about that in the life drawing streams on Mondays. So food for thought. Art, Blade Runner style, yeah. Whenever, I mean, when I first started, when the Cintiq came out and I had it in studio, people would go on studio tours, and sometimes kids would be able to tour through the studio to see sort of like video game development. And they would see this thing and they'd be blown away by it. I guess I was fairly complacent at that point, because it was like, okay, yeah, it's a screen you can draw on, it's a digitizer, right? But a lot of people were blown away by the high-tech nature of it all. 32-inch Cintiq. Wow, that'd be huge. I think my friend has the biggest one. I don't know what size it is. Just massive. Yeah, you got to adjust the pad. Yeah. You have an issue with the Cintiq. I'm not sure if it's because I'm resting my arm on it, but it does. It looks like the screen inside of it is bent or flattened. I can't quite describe. It's not visible when start coloring, but my God, is it visible when the background is white? Oh, so you can actually see the depression of the pen. Yeah, what can happen, and my Cintiq, the Lexan's far enough off the panel that you don't get that pressure, right? I can press hard enough on my iPad to start getting this weird discoloration that happens when you're pressing the glass into the panel, right? That's not great. I don't know what Cintiq you have, but it might be that you're just pressing too hard. I don't know. I'd have to see that. So yeah, it's weird. Like if you were to go and press on, I wouldn't suggest it, but if you were to press on your LCD monitor, right, you're going to see that there's the discoloration to it. Or that it feels like there's like this little pulse wave of that light refracting in a strange way. Likely because of the nature of the way the light's being produced, and you're disrupting or warping that membrane, and so the light doesn't come through the way it should. But that's just a guess. I don't know. It could be anything. It's always fun trying to troubleshoot things online. It's like if your parents ever ask you how to fix their computer, right? It's just so painful to try and tell them how, like, what's going on. Press this thing. You didn't press that thing, right? So that's why I'm not in IT. All right, let's get back to some of this. All right. So I want to kind of start putting some trees down in here. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful with these now, because let's find that tree layer. I'm going to lay these on top of that. We'll call that MG Tree Valley individuals, I guess. And I'm calling it that because I want these trees to kind of just be sitting out in space, right? Sort of like that. So what I want to do with that brush specifically is space it way out, because I don't want the trees to kind of come out of the brush too quick, right? If I kind of focus in one area a lot and go back and forth, I can create a stand. So that's sort of what I want to do. I want to kind of break out the tree line with some of these guys. So something else that I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my shape dynamics. I'm going to go to pen pressure because I want to be able to press lightly and have little trees come out. Press hard and have big trees come out, right? So I can have kind of like big trees, and then I can kind of flow down into these little guys, right? Which is sort of what you're going to see where trees can't grow, or they've been cut down and they're starting to grow again, right? So high alpine trees would be small. So if I were putting some trees up here, right, maybe they'd be little guys, which maybe I'll do, kind of make that alpine feel a little bit more realistic. Side effect of this, we'll see once I've kind of built a little bit more of these guys, is that I can pull them out from the background by isolating or locking the alpha on that. So have some of these guys come out that tree line and just kind of drop down on that slope. You'll notice that I don't want to kind of put them everywhere, right? Because if I put them everywhere, then it starts to kind of create a general pattern, at the chaotic pattern, but still a general pattern where they're not interesting in and of themselves because there's just too much similar application of that, right? So you want to be careful on where you put those things and what those shapes that you're creating look like, right? Because I can still create a shape with these trees, a general shape, right? So why not use that to your advantage? I've got this same song back, Harris Heller. There we go. Can you share a screenshot? You can. I probably won't be able to. I don't really want to troubleshoot in the Twitch stream. But yeah, you can share a screenshot. If I don't know what it is, I'll just say I don't know. You'll have to kind of track that down on your own. And again, I'm the worst person to look at this stuff, right? I don't know. I'll be the same person Googling it, right? So let's try and get some of these trees just populating in through there. Few of these guys in through there. We'll maybe kind of have some of them sweep up into where our house is. Like a few of these guys kind of come in through here as well. Maybe follow the edge of that river. Texture in the grass, yeah. I for that, at that point, you know, where with stylization, you don't want to get too literal with the noise that you see in the real world, right? Because you're exaggerating things and already it doesn't look like reality. It looks like an interpretation of reality. So yeah, for me, just trying to use the pull strokes, the marks that stroke is making to create some contour in the valley, right? So you can kind of feel it sweeping down. So yeah, it's pretty good. I like it anyway. So I'm using this tree brush to amend some of the inconsistencies between the tree slope up here, right here, and the grass, which don't connect. So let's turn that back on. So I can kind of just have those trees kind of run down here, cover that up. Everybody's happy. We can decide to do that maybe in the background as well. So let's go find that. Lazy trees. We still have that off. We have a really tight edge there, so I'm going to still use this tree brush to... it's sitting up on top. So I'd have to, I've painted this stand on top. I might keep it that way. We're maybe getting a little bit too involved in that small detail down in there. All right. So that's feeling good. We may want a few trees up in the top. I feel like I do. So let's go find this layer. We'll just use the same individual layer. Get up in there. There we go. Just wondering why that wasn't working. So I can create a little bit of a stand in here and have that kind of pop out down low. Trying to create shapes with this stuff still. And then I can go and use the eraser tool. I could use my mask here to get rid of some of those guys. I'll have to switch off my tree, go to something a little bit more simple like that. And then I can just mask them out in behind that slope so they don't kind of cut in over top of that. So just kind of fit in behind there. Let's go back to our trees. Since I let go of my brush, I have to go and space that out again. And I gotta add that pen pressure back if I want it to get small trees as well. Some of those trees are a little bit too big. And we'll put one massive tree out here. No, although that could be pretty cool. Maybe these trees that kind of just get bigger out to the end there, get smaller again. That could be fun. Maybe I'll just play around with it. It's a great thing. Kind of sit with it, see how you feel. There we go. Did we decide to put any of that in the background? We could. We'll see if we can make that just more of a simplified noise back there. So I'm going to go find that layer, distant mountain. And we don't want any of those to be clipped down because I want to maybe break that form. So I might go to the lazy tree layer because that's just the trees down low. And then I'll try and see if I can work that up above. See if that's too dark. Yeah, it feels a bit too dark. Even that's a bit too intense. Yeah, that feels a little bit better to me. Let's make those trees even smaller. What are you doing after you finish the environment? I will plan on that when it happens. I haven't really thought about that yet. Probably we might get into some maybe some prop design at that point. So we're not always just doing characters or environments. It's an artist thing. Just Google it. I kind of go in at days when my tech friends start talking. Well, tech. Yeah, I totally know what that means. Yeah, I mean, Google is really good for it. I mean, likely somebody's run into your problem. You just have to dig for the answer. My favorite answer to a technical problem on the internet is always like, why are you doing that? Which is not an answer, right? And it's like this person wants to establish that they know better instead of actually helping you. It's the most annoying answer I've seen. I don't see it, Sean, fortunately. Yeah, I don't see it. Sorry, the next question is, are you ever going to learn animation, Brandon? No, I have enough on my plate with practicing and being good at 2D art. People that do that, awesome. It's not something that I'm personally interested in. But to each their own. Backgrounds in game, Sheep, Dog and Wolf, PS1. Never played it. What type of projects did you work on before? Did you do any animation TV show projects or animated movie projects? No, I didn't. Animated. No, I didn't actually. I'm trying to think of all the stuff that I've worked on. I did do a little bit of some concept for the Willoughbys for Braun and a pitch for them, which I'm not sure ever came to fruition, but that was the extent of the animated stuff animated feature stuff that I was working on. Some Samurai Jack vibes. Oh, is that who you're talking about? Are you going to create props of a style and color script you are weak at? Maybe. We'll see. Depends on how I feel. See what I want to create. Might switch back to realism at that point for prop design. So we can also play with that. Cool. So we've got some trees. I'm really liking the kind of trees in that lazy tree background there. The stuff up at the top here, just breaking the horizon of that and kind of moving over top is kind of nice. Creates a bit of a difference between that far background and this middle background. So I kind of like that. sit with that a bit. Have you created characters yet on Twitch? Yes, I did a zombie. That was the first character, the first design that we worked on. I'm gonna see if I can get some trees in that far bowl. Texture. Okay, so that's that. So we just have to pop that up on top. BG bowl trees, we'll say. And we're using this value. It maybe needs to be bumped up by a hair. It's not too bad. I don't know if I want to see individual trees back there though, because I don't know. I don't know if that's sort of the vibe that I want. But I might kind of create sort of a mass and then see how that feels. I can always erase or mask into it. It's good for scale anyway. The strokes that we're seeing, or the texture that we're seeing on the mountains as it goes back, is very similar. That's probably going to be something that I change. It feels too same all the way back. So we'll see if we can affect that. Creating characters out of your comfort zone, away from what you're comfortable with. Yes, I have indeed created characters out of my comfort zone. Resident Evil fan, Leon, you must continue Redfield. Bloodline. Yep, definitely. I've created all sorts of characters. So maybe using some of these to maybe create almost like a texture of tree stands in the background. I might actually even add a mask to that and come back in and kind of try and chew away at some of that. Some of these trees in through here. rid of some of these guys. Get them out of there. Yeah, I might add some texture to that even. That bowl being some cliff that moves up from there. What type of character have I yet to create? That is a very broad question. Fan art. Do you ever do fan art? Or character genre? I've created characters for sci-fi, fantasy, horror, modern crime, all sorts of things. So just be kind of cycling around to something else, looking at it a different way. Do you ever do fan art like The Last of Us? Not really. I'm not a huge fan art guy. You'll know that if you take my classes. I'm always making sure my students are spending their time creating their own designs and working through that problem solving. I'd rather do that. But yeah, not Resident Evil. Or sorry, Last of Us. I like The Last of Us, don't get me wrong. And a little bit of the design inspired the first zombie kind of inspired was based off of a world like that. So you could probably say that's a little bit like fan art. But here's the thing is you can create inspired work that isn't necessarily owned by the whomever the IP holder is, right? You can always use those worlds to spark your own designs. And, you know, maybe in your world of zombies, things happen a little bit differently, or they're more kind of morphed or a lot more varied in their morphology. Haircut, yeah. Excellent. What part do you like the best in Last of Us? Oh, my finger's back. The Last of Us 1 or 2? I'm gonna lock that and see if I can get some texture going in there. That's an interesting noise. I don't know if I love it though. I don't know what that means. The quartering on YouTube? I'm not sure what that means. Quartering. Yeah, I like what they did. I like what they were trying to achieve in the game. I'm not sure they did achieve, you know, a completely coherent representation of the story they're going after. But I liked the mechanics of the story crossover. Personally, I didn't really feel anything for the one character without spoiling it for you guys. But I also don't live or die by video game storylines, so that's me. Some people think they're kind of like owed a specific experience, which is hilarious to me. It's like, if you don't like it, fine. I mean, have you ever watched a movie you didn't like, right? did you get angry at the theater or the production company for ruining it? I mean, a lot of people were sore and upset about Game of Thrones season 8. I personally was happy to not have to watch it anymore. I really enjoyed the series, but I'm not a TV guy. I don't like spending my time doing that kind of stuff. So I didn't want another whole season. So yeah, they rushed it. It could have been way better. But hey, good enough. People, I guess, get mad because they invest time and stuff and they don't get the payoff that they want. I mean, it's just like The Matrix, right? You could have ended with The Matrix instead of making 2 and 3, and it would have been just fine. I could say that I feel like Matrix 2 and 3 ruined the franchise, but did it? No, I still really enjoyed The Matrix. That tends to be the one people reference a lot of the time anyway. So... the quarterings again, YouTube that gives headlines and opinions on video games, but without PC correctness. No, I have not. I have not. So I'm trying to create this texture back here. I'm trying to find something that I like. I feel like I don't want it to be that kind of noisy or noticeable. I just want a little hint. Trying to find some stroke that has just a little bit of noise in it. That one kind of feels pretty good. So just going for this kind of scumbled look. Right, where you're going to notice there's sort of like some loose noise in there, but I want to paint it down enough where it's not going to be too noticeable. Could always opt to blur it or blend it, maybe. Maybe it's enough that we have some color variance in that. We could just kind of stick with that. Let's go through and slightly kind of blend that down. Meh, I like the texture. We'll leave it there. See how that feels in time. When I add back some of this stuff, let's say in the VTAR, I'm not going to notice that area as much, so I don't need to kind of really beat myself up over what it looks like. I just want enough where it's not just this flat quality back there. Okay, let's turn the VTAR off. So the slopes with the grass texture, that pulled bristle look, is something else. Let's see if I can actually get back there and clean some of that up. Can't wait for Crash Bandicoot 4. Tribal tattoos. Oh yeah, the tribal tattoo thing. Yeah. Yeah, that was not my call. That was the art director. There's a whole bunch of things. Our last version that we were working on looked really awesome. And a lot of the style of a famous artists, which I can't talk about, but it looked pretty cool. The new one looks good. I mean, it's very beholden to the original. So they're going for the nostalgic vibe in there. Can't fault them for that, though. Definitely was beloved. So this brush is pushing and pulling some paint around, which is kind of nice. Did you watch the cartoon Courage the Cowardly Dog? Nope. Wrath of Cortex. Wrath of Cortex. No, I've not played that. It's almost like a little bit of an oil brush. It's to kind of push and pull some of that pigment around, which is really nice. So we can kind of create a little bit of an undulation as these things move through that space. I can follow some of the contours of that and kind of pull those things through, which is really nice. I like it. Yeah, not a popular opinion, but I actually didn't really love the original Crash game. The gameplay of running into the screen, not for me. Definitely sold me on the console, though, graphics-wise, back at the time, which is kind of funny to say now, because you look back on it, it's like, oof. Also wasn't a huge fan of Spyro, which I know a few of my students would vomit if they heard me say that. Let's kind of follow this up that slope, kind of get some of that pulling through up there. I'm trying to kind of create these beautiful kind of like flowing spaces up in there. See, even within the strokes that I'm trying to lay down in here, I'm still trying to build a sense of volume and interesting shape with whatever it is I'm doing, right? You don't want to kind of phone anything in. Just coming over the horizon there, down into that little hollow. Very nice blending brush. We'll go and kind of stub in some of this dark value in here. Just going to kind of plant some paint so I can go back to my smudge and kind of pull that around. Banjo Kazooie. I played a little bit of Banjo. Diddy Kong. Nah, I hate racing games. I don't know. Well, that's not true. I really liked Mario Kart, but I liked the battle mode in Mario Kart, not the racing. It's racing round a track just to shave time off. Just bores me after a while. It's funny because I used to like it. I used like Gran Turismo when it came out on PlayStation. I played the hell out of. So, but yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, what I don't even remember what it's called. Mind Over Mutant, Shadow of the Colossus. No, not Shadow of Colossus. Mind Over Mutant, Crash Tag Team Racing. That's when I was trying to get into the industry as a concept artist. So I worked on that as a QA tester, not art. Trying to get the foot in the door there. And then Mind Over Mutant and I can't remember the other name. It's been way too long. Shadow of Colossus. Yeah, no, I loved that game. Pretty frustrating though. If you get all the way to the top and you fall, bend my controller in half. Clash of the Titans. That's what it was. Yeah. Are you a good gamer? Yeah, I played all the. I'm a Grand Theft Auto fan for sure. I played everyone since the beginning. Am I good? Not now. Too many people are trying to be like professional gamers. I say this on Twitch, right? Too many people are like spending all their time getting really sweaty, practicing for hours and hours. And of course, you're going to be better than people like me who have a full-time job and other things they want to do. I mean, I play shooters a lot because I can kind of get in and get out of a shooter really quick without kind of investing a ton of time. Like World of Warcraft is really bad for that. That was like the last time I played a massive multiplayer online game because it was just like a time suck. You had to go do this thing and grind out, and then you'd have to come all the way back to a place and be hours, right? I need to get in and out 15 minutes. Rocket League, there you go. But I can hold my own for sure. Yeah. No, retro consoles. I mean, the current consoles I have, even I'm probably going to give away. I'll try and see if I can donate them to a hospital or something for sick kids. Just don't need that stuff laying around. I live in a condo or an apartment. There's no room for that kind of stuff. I'd have to get a storage room for that, and I don't really need to be paying money to store old stuff I'm never going to touch again. Might hate you for this. Favorite is Vice City. I think that's a lot of people's favorite game. I mean, it's mine. Out of the set, it was just the most complete at the time, but still like the best soundtrack, I think, for me, my musical taste. The nostalgia of the 80s. I felt like it had a lot more kind of personality than the previous game. And then even GTA 4 was, I think, a lot. It had not much of a personality compared to Vice City. They should just remake it. Hopefully they're doing it. I saw that leak. I can't remember what the person's name was, but that they leaked that they were a QA tester on it, and they kind of spilled the beans on what it was, sort of like the whole East Coast down to Florida or something like that. I hope that's the case, and I hope it's sort of set in that era, because I think that game would sell. If they even just took the engine they have now and remastered Vice City, that game would print money. I'd buy it. I mean, I'm pretty bad. I bought GTA 5 on different PS3, 4, PC. I'm one of those people. I'm supporting Rockstar and releasing one game over 10 years. But the same thing for Red Dead. I love Red Dead as well. Your FPS skills started dwindling as you... Yeah, I mean, it's just if you have other things to do, you can't be sitting there for 8 hours a day, you know. And also, I don't know, for me, the games get boring, right? I don't want to make it like work. I want to sit down with a game, have fun for a bit, and get on with it, right? That's why my Steam library is massive. That's something else is a nice little tidbit for you guys is I created these sculptures of Team Fortress when I worked at Radical, which was owned by Activision. And a guy knew some people at Valve, and he sent my sculptures of these pumpkin sculptures to Valve, and they liked it so much they gave me free Valve games for life. So anytime a new Valve game comes out, I get it for free, which is pretty cool. So all because of the art, right? Not playing the games. Although I played a ton of Team Fortress 2. This rank games nonstop. I did a very good, consistent rank. Got burnt out. So when he plays all the time, yeah. Yeah, and then you get frustrated that you screwed it up. You let your team down. It's like, is that really why I'm playing video games? I don't care. Yeah, Vice City was way more laid back. Yeah. Do you have any brothers or sisters you game with? I have a sister. She doesn't game. Never liked it. Not very interested. You destroy your brother. Nice. Partner also likes Vice City. He reverted to Saints Row the Third. Yeah, I mean, talk about a game that got that got popular because it wasn't as serious as GTA, right? It was a bit too goofy for me, but that's just it. It's like different strokes for different folks. So yeah, that's cool to hear. I think they remastered it recently, I thought. Red Dead 2, if you haven't played it, oh man, I would suggest. I'm very biased because I played the first one over and over. I bought it again on Xbox One, played it again. The zombie mode in that, I still think is one of my favorite DLCs ever. Because after finishing the game and the whole space unlocked, it kind of, the story they built for that zombie mode was changed the spaces, and you could go revisit these things with these creepy zombies shambling out of the forest or running in the grass. It was, I don't know. I loved it. I loved it. It's on the Switch now. Nice. Play the original Resident Evil. Absolutely. When they first came out, played them at friends' houses and in high school. Dating myself there, but yeah, how frustrating is the original game? Oh my god, load times, the control, like the tank controls were brutal, but it was still like one of the most cinematic games I remember when it came out. And Resident Evil 2 is the one I really geeked out on, speed running it and unlocking Tofu and Hunk, all of that stuff. So I was this close to buying the remaster because it looks beautiful. But again, it always just boils down to not having time. Yeah, Little Nightmare. Second one's coming out. Wow. Feels like the Little Nightmare just came out. I had it wishlisted or whatever console it was on, but I never got around to actually getting it. But looks pretty cool. Looks pretty cool. All right, lots of chit chat here. So that's feeling pretty good to me. I don't think I'd be bringing any of this texture into the middle ground and background in there. I think that'll be enough for us. Yeah, I don't feel like we're going to see too much of it, or that I won't want to see too much of that in the background. Take a look at our original. So quite different. You see sort of like how craggy this is, this whole face. I mean, you could fall off the top here and just tumble to your death, right? Many times over. Whereas I really kind of made that flatter because I kind of want to make it feel like it sweeps out and drops off again. But it's always popping back there to see what's going on. Yeah, okay. Let's turn that VTAR off. So I'm going to go fix this texture. This guy back here. So plastic wrap. Let's go use this. Let's see if this... Yeah, I'm going to use this smudge brush just to kind of break up some of those lines and change that up a little bit so I can make smaller forms out of it, but still use some of the light versus dark texture in there. I might even do that with the rest of them as well. It's a good first stab at that texture, but I feel like I need to develop it a little bit more. You can always leave a little bit of it here and there as well. Get this guy now. I got to be careful with this guy because this was our lazy mountain. Remember, we've got the grass and the rock texture being one and the same, right? So it's got to beware. You don't kind of go too far with that. I could even kind of just isolate that by using my marquee selection tool to cut right up to that edge, and then we'd be okay. Whoops, get back to our pull that up through the top. The dark parts of this are some that I also didn't quite tweak, so I can go and find those ones. The texture, that's these guys. They can be locked, and we can maybe filter in something slightly darker for those guys. Let's go find a softer kind of brush with that. Do that. Let's go find the other layer. This guy's not named. He's an offender. So that's the upper cliffs. Always name those guys. Vertical texture. That's the one I want. I'm going to lock that and make those even just a little bit darker. Not sure if you're getting an Xbox Series X or PS5. I'm not either. I tend towards PlayStation just because of the exclusives that they do have. I prefer. I'm not a huge, and never have been a huge Master Chief Halo fan. Just the way it is. So for me, it's the PS. If I'm gonna have one, it's usually the PlayStation. But even at this point, it's like the expense of it and how often I get to actually play games. I can opt for PC to scratch that itch without spending that money. But I say that. Maybe I will. Who knows? I don't think it's smart for me to do that personally, but we'll see, I guess. Never played Ratchet and Clank, yeah. Will you be doing artwork for the rest of today? No, I'm going to be wrapping this up well, it's 12:26 my time. I'm going to wrap it up before the end of the hour as I have other things I've got to do. But I'll be working on other people's artwork and giving feedback. So there's that. But not doing the Twitch stream stuff. We'll wrap that up. Let's go find that texture, lock that. Let's give that a bit of darkness, not too much. Gonna pull that back a hint. Don't want it to be too bright. Let's go find this guy again. Make him a little bit darker. This guy's a lot darker, so that'll work. So, I mean, the question could be at this point is like, do I want to kind of get into any sort of value modeling, rendering with this in terms of kind of like, say, like we could pick the front of this guy, left faces. I could get that selection tool going, start a new layer, which we could call shadow. And I could get in there with, I can make that a multiply layer. And then I could get in there with some modeling of the those forms. Make it feel like these cliffs are kind of coming out and producing certain shapes at that point. When I'm working on stylized work like this, you do have to sit down and kind of decide, like, do I want to get into that on this? Does it make sense? Is it kind of add to it, or is it going to kind of just confuse things, right? So, but I might kind of see what it feels like. This kind of thing. Because I can always undo it, right? And this is on a separate layer, so I can make certain adjustments, right? Like if I wanted to create this little sharp crevasse moving down in there, I can just go and make some selections with the marquee tool. Cut those things out, right? Some of the texture obviously is not going to work like this, so I might go in and fix that if I were to start kind of pushing and pulling things a little bit more, but it's always worth a play. I'm not entirely convinced that that's worth it right now, but I might kind of revisit that. These guys up here need a little bit of loving. Let's go find a brush for that. I'm gonna go get these upper cliffs as well. Whoops. Lock the alpha on that. Make that a little bit brighter. It's getting a bit too dark. Doesn't feel too bad in there. I might actually start making the chalet down here. Let's go find that. Chalet. It's gonna cancel. It's gonna delete that. And I mean, I can zoom in on that. I can kind of think about the perspective. I might do some sketching even at this point to kind of feel out what the shape might be. So I might just go kind of pick a line tool, simple line tool. Think about what I want my chalet to look like. It's always good to look at reference for that stuff. PureRef, I've got some chalets selected. And in my PureRef file, these are kind of modern chalets. But that could be something that I like. A little patio outside or something. I'm not going to be able to see too much of the detail in here, but I want there to be enough detail where you can at least see some of that noise. Maybe a window at the top. Might be a little bit of a road coming up to it. Maybe. I can maybe sketch that in here. I might turn on some smoothing. I rarely use the smoothing in Photoshop, but sometimes it's nice to do something like that. See how we feel about it. So with these shapes, I mean, a lot of this is stylized, right? So I'm okay with a little bit of this being wonky. In fact, I kind of want it to be the case within reason to make it feel a little bit more fun, a little bit more dynamic. It's how much of this do I want to actually, you know, do I want to make it sort of like a house with little woodshed or all of that? I don't really. I want this to be kind of just a very simple representation of the space. So I think I might leave it like that and start a chalet group though. And we'll call that chalet line. Start with that. Always remember to save. I haven't saved that whole time. So do what I say, not what I do. Okay. Let us go back in PureRef. And catch up with some of the stuff here. You in lockdown. Can you go out freely? Yes, we can go out freely. We don't have too many cases. Well, we have cases, but they're only in the like teens. It got up to 20 people the other day, but it's kind of been fluctuating around there. It's pretty usual. We're able to kind of move around our. It's considered that it would be good that we stay within our province, which is like a state, depending on where you're from in the world. But British Columbia, where I'm at, is absolutely massive. So that's not such a big deal for me. Insanity. Simulation, no kidding. Okay, so chalet layer. I'm just going to call this chalet. And I'm going to kind of go in there and just build it with shapes. So zoom into this bad boy and use the linear marquee tool to get in here and kind of start plugging shapes in. Maybe something a little bit warmer. And I'm going to go for something that's kind of nice and white, like you might see in Switzerland. I'm going to pop that down below, though, because I want the roof to sit on top of it. And we'll just kind of paint the front of that house that color. I mean, not a lot of light's actually going to come over onto this side, but I'm modeling the kind of basic structure of it, right? So I'm not too worried about that. Pop this little patio element, balcony, whatever you want to call it, in there as well. We'll make that a nice dark, deep dark wood. That's our window. I'm gonna just go and populate these other things with some basic color. Turn the chalet line off. Not too shabby. Maybe this chalet color. Pop a shadow underneath that. A little bit of cast shadow. Put that to multiply. And let go of it. And keep that interesting enough. Pop that line back up, and we can kind of come through here and I might actually go with a I might kind of try and create that road out of a shape. I'm just going to kind of weave through here. Nah, don't love it. I mean, I could just paint that in. I am going to use a different brush, though, if I do that. very bad in the UK with the numbers. It's not going good. At the same time, glad to hear. You should give the cartoons I suggested a shot. Even Courage the Cowardly Dog. It's very dark and has an element of horror in it. Interesting. I might check it out. Depending. I wouldn't hold my breath, but it's good to know of these things, right? In case I get to it. One heavy cartoon that I want to get to is Primal. It's because it looks really hardcore. That's not bad, but can remedy that. Let's go grab a different brush in there. Just go through and kind of knock out some of those wavy elements. Let's put that underneath the shadow as well. Lock that. I can use my airbrush, a little bit of a multiply. Some of the grass edges a hint of volume. Kind of cut it through there. Okay, yeah. So that's a good, at least first step for that, right? We go back to our VTAR, take a look at what's going on there. So that warm light's way too warm, right? So I can always go into that layer and kill off a bit of the saturation on that so we can manage that a bit better. I like some of the warmth in there, but again, it's just our VTAR. It's not super serious. We can always change it, right? But just seeing kind of where it's targeting the house and how that's working, and I can probably work with that a little bit as I continue to wrap this up. So yeah, so we can see how let's turn the VTAR off. See how we kind of go in through there and develop these different spaces over time and get that looking more interesting. I'm definitely going to spend some time lighting the clouds, getting some of that crepuscular ray coming in to make this look closer to the VTAR. Any of the lighting that I've scrubbed in up in here is just super rough, right? So I'm going to have to take the same time with it and get that stuff working well. But it's not going too bad, I don't think. It's now getting to the point where I can start to play with a little bit more of that lighting rather than just the texture. So I'm looking forward to that, but that will have to be outside of the stream for today because I'm going to wrap things up here. A magic roundabout or bag bus. Nope, not seeing either one of those. Across the mountains. Interesting. Cool. But I really enjoy this. Brighten up your day. Well, excellent. Glad I could help. So yeah, I would say as before, try this stuff out on your own. It doesn't even have to be this much stylization, and it doesn't have to be an environment, right? We can choose to stylize anything from photographs, right? We're just taking sort of reference from them, making our rule sets and kind of going with it, right? As we move through that stuff, and at least having some patience. Always set up the VTAR for yourself so you can kind of imagine what the final product will look like, so you don't kind of get too cagey about the development, where some of it can start to feel like not there yet too much, right? So have at her. Otherwise, have a great week, gang. The Monday stream might be substituted. I won't be around for that. I'll be back on Thursday. So keep an eye out for that to happen. If not, we will pick up with the life drawing the following week. Okay, awesome. So take care, everyone. Stay safe out there and make sure you keep practicing. See you next time.